Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/MaliciousCompliance. Let's start our video with a story about horrible management who wanted to take vacation days away from workers. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Use your PTO within 2 months or lose it. So this happened roughly 5 years ago. I worked for a grocery store that had gone over several different buyouts. The original company was extremely generous with its paid time off. Because of how many weeks some employees had, a lot of the older employees had made comfortable careers out of working at a grocery store when you could have up to 3 months paid time off. At least one person I knew had this much, but it was very common for people to have 8 to 10 weeks off a year. I myself had 6 weeks PTO after 6 years with the company. Each employee received accrued vacation time, 40 hours paid holiday, and 40 hours of vacation time a year, all packaged together as my time. Sometime in the summer, we were informed that our location was being sold because the parent company was merging with another competitor, and due to a monopoly in the area, the building had to be sold before the merge. The entire transaction was hectic because the store I worked at was designated the flagship of their expansion. We got brand new cooler cases, displays, paint, the works. On top of taking full inventories of every product in the store and later ordering heavily from the old company's warehouse to create a stockpile that should last us for a few days, all while training in how the new company operates. In the midst of all this, there was a revolving door of different managers, HR reps, trainers, trainees, and such, oftentimes with differing or contradictory things to tell us. By the time we were alerted to what would become of our PTO, it was 2 months until the merger was complete. Any employee staying on with the new company negotiated their PTO and wages during interviews with them, but we were unsure of what the old company was going to do in regards to what we'd already accrued with them. The head of HR sent out a memo that finally ended all the guesswork. Every employee would have 1 week rollover with the new company that can be used during the remainder of the year, and old company would pay out 1 week. Anything unused would be lost. We recommend all employees adjust their time off request to reflect this. Obviously, people started to worry. We were told we had to use it or lose it. So we used it. People clamored to take time off or just call out sick or leave early. The day after the announcement, I had 4 call-outs in my department out of 8 scheduled. Because our PTO was packaged, it was all taken out of the same time bank. So there was no difference between personal days, vacations, or calling out sick. It took the old company almost 2 weeks to change their stance and to renegotiate the terms, upping the rollover to 2 weeks and the payout to 2 additional weeks. On top of that, employees were allowed to bump their hours up to 40 and use PTO to make up the difference. It's just another form of wage theft. If you're going to unilaterally take away time your employee has earned, you better at least pay them out for those lost hours. And our second story. Impatient Karen loses her job. For those not in the know, a mystery shopper is a person assigned by the company to make random unannounced inspections with regards to customer service and in general the well-being of the company employees and the store. Also, it's customary for the mystery shopper to blend in with everyday customers and not bring attention to themselves in a way that can be misconstrued as just another obnoxious and rude customer, i.e., act like a douche, get treated like a douche. This woman didn't get that memo. One day around lunchtime, my boss was in the back having her lunch. I was out on the shop floor and serving customers an unusually high amount, but nothing that I couldn't handle on my own. Since my coworker wasn't going to be in later, when in walks this Karen. As I was serving the queue of customers, I half-heartedly said, "Hi, welcome to blank." I was hungry while still serving them and ringing through items. Karen, and under her breath, "It's polite to make eye contact." Alarm bells. She hums and haws while I'm making my way cautiously and correctly through the remaining customers, all the while she's making daggers and eventually storms off in a huff looking around. Like, I can come away from paying customers just to help her. As the last 2 customers make their way to the till, she joins the queue with the whole 2 items with an audible OFFS. The customer I'm serving looks at me with a WTAF expression and I nod. Not even 1 minute in. Karen, "This is effing ridiculous." Finalizing the payment before moving on to the next customer, the till decides to freeze and it takes a few minutes for it to reboot. I make my apologies and the customer I'm serving is fine with it along with the customer behind. Louder, Karen. "Oh, FFS, the service in this establishment," she was posh, "is absolutely effing ridiculous." I had enough. With my best but PO'd customer service voice, I smile and said, "Listen, as you can clearly see, I'm dealing with other customers. I am the only staff member on the floor as my boss is at lunch. The till has decided to not play nice, and to be perfectly honest with you, I'm well within my rights to refuse you service and ask you to leave as your attitude absolutely stinks." "What? You can't talk to me that way. Don't you know who I am?" "I really don't care, to be honest. Now I'm asking you once again to leave." She storms off in the foulest mood you ever did see. The customer I'm serving says, "Thank Christ you said something. I was ready to smack her." We both laugh and I finish both services and thank them for their patience. They both worked in another store where we were based. My boss has finally finished her lunch at this point and has come through the front. Boss: "Oh, I meant to say there's going to be a mystery shopper in at some point. Don't know who, but be on your best behavior." Oh, F. I quickly tell her what happened and explain that I was busy, but not too busy, that I needed to involve her in the conversations as it happened. And lo and behold, just as I'm finishing telling her, in walks the regional manager for the company. "RM, OP, back office, now." I'm dead. Now, knowing that the RM has a tendency to be a hothead in these situations, I was crapping bricks at this point. Thankfully, I've had a reasonably good working relationship with him up to this point, so it really could go any way. RM, unusually calm. "What happened?" I explain everything, from the moment she entered to the moment she stormed off, almost taking the door with her, and the fact that I had a witness that worked in the immediate vicinity, the full shebang. RM sighs and nods. I'm finally glad somebody else had the balls to stand up to my wife. "What?" The look on my face said it all, and he started to laugh. "Please accept my apologies, and I'll let B know that there's not going to be any repercussions from this. And I think it's time to let my wife know it's time to find more suitable employment." I'm speechless, and I just mutter, "Thanks." He hands me a 20-pound gift card for the Mall's Cafe and said lunch was on him. The best coffee and chicken bacon club sandwich I ever had. Did not see that twist coming and thoroughly enjoyed the surprise. Nicely narrated, and I'm glad you got a decent lunch out of it at least. And our last story. Entitled Crazy HOA President. Just before leaving active duty military after almost 10 years, my wife and I bought a large house in my hometown in the coast in a nice neighborhood with an HOA. I'd never lived in an HOA before and never knew how bad, cliquey, or political it could be. Not long after we moved in, letters started coming about having a boat in our driveway. Mind you, we live not 100 yards from the water. Really? So we complied and placed it in a local marina. After living there about 2 years, the neighbors we had, which were really great, moved. And a new, older couple moved in. They were really nice at first, letting my children swim in their pool, sharing an adult beverage in the evening, talking on the fence, etc. Then it happened. The wife ran for and became the HOA president. She started walking around the neighborhood and taking notes. She would walk into people's yards and make corrections, and even go so far as to trespass into people's backyards, gated or not, and take pictures of violations and send out letters. I came home one evening to find her on my back porch looking at things and taking pictures. I was a police officer at the time, and while trying to be nice, informed her she could get into a lot of trouble for what she was doing. She tried to tell me as the HOA president, she was entitled to go into people's private property and even their houses to inspect them if need be. I informed her of the state and federal laws against this, and it started a war. I immediately started receiving $100 fines for very minor issues with my home. I fixed the issues immediately and never had to pay the fines with the HOA property management company, but did file complaints. The HOA PM company never did do anything about the complaints. Then it happened. I also owned a small business, which I had a truck and trailer I would use during the business day. I had this parked in front of the house one day, and she took a picture of it. According to the HOA rules, it was not allowed to be there overnight, and never was. I received a letter and a fine for $100 stating that the vehicle had been parked there overnight. This time I asked for a review with the HOA Board of Directors, the PM company, the attorney, and my attorney. This was going to cost the HOA PM company and all involved much more than $100 in time and money. At this meeting, I asked the HOA president to present evidence that other than one picture of the vehicle, there were more than 24 hours with time and date stamps. She could not. I asked for the $100 to be dropped. The HOA board and PM company refused. I was publicly berated by the HOA president in front of the board and my attorney, saying that I should be a good soldier and do as I was told by the HOA board and obey the rules. At this point, my attorney and I had enough evidence of harassment due to recording the conversation. We then informed everyone in the room that we'd been recording everyone. This inflamed them more, and they threatened to call the police for violating the law. In our state, it was more than legal and well within our rights. We then informed them that we'd be filing a lawsuit which we were sure to win and would bankrupt the HOA. According to state law and the HOA bylaws, in the event the HOA ceased to exist or became bankrupt, and every one of the 35 houses in the HOA would have their mortgages immediately due and payable. Most people don't know this exists in a lot of HOA covenants. We just got up and walked out of the meeting and said we think this settles the matter and hope there will be no further fines, threats, harassment, etc. I had very good friends in the neighborhood and did not want to see their families affected. About a month later, the HOA had elections for a new HOA board. I informed several people in the neighborhood I'd be running for the HOA board president. We got together, and on the night of the board meeting and election we attended, there were only about 10 people there to vote. There were 6 people along with myself who voted for me, but miraculously the incumbent HOA president had a unanimous vote when the property management company chair counted the votes. Right there in the meeting, I asked all 6 people who'd voted for me to raise their hand. With me, that was 7. And the PM chair had no answer since it had already been entered into the corporate minutes. I said it'd be fine, let it stand, and then informed everyone in the room about the previous meeting, mortgages, suing the HOA, and now calling the state attorney general's office. Within a short time, the property management company was changed out, the HOA president was replaced with a nice, level-headed gentleman, and I never, ever so much as heard a peep from the HOA ever again. I played by the rules more or less, but eventually sold the house and moved on. Never mess with a paratrooper. HOAs sound like they need to be bound, gagged, and shipped to communist China. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.